Hey, welcome to Half the Battle. Well, I finally saw Snake Eyes G.I.Joe Origins, and I have notes. And I mean that literally. I took notes during the movie and then I typed them out. Now, this is gonna be a vlog. It's not a review. It's not gonna have a lot of footage or any footage really of the movie. This is just me talking about it. Also, it's gonna be full of spoilers. I'm gonna be spoiling basically the entire movie for you. So if you're watching this, I assume that you've already seen the movie or that you don't give a crap about spoilers. So, you've had fair warning. Let's get started. First off, I'm gonna make it clear that I don't care that Snake Eyes in this movie isn't a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy. I really couldn't care less. And that he talks all the time now, well, that was inevitable, wasn't it? I mean, an entire movie with a silent character? It's been done, I think, but it wasn't gonna work for this movie, so I don't care about that either. And the fact that this movie Snake Eyes is a cocky asshole, well, I actually kinda like that. It's a refreshing change. Now, before we get into the movie proper, there are a few small things that I noticed. If this was a review, it would be nitpicks, but now they're just observations, really. For example, Scarlet is in this movie, which is awesome, but she isn't a sergeant, she's a major. So, okay. It's a weird change, I don't know why they did it, but I don't mind at all. Because G.I. Joe has too many sergeants anyway. If some idiot were to go through all the file cards of the original toy line, and I did, they'd find that there are about 70 sergeants in the G.I. Joe team. Yeah. One last thing about Scarlet is she says that her commanding officer is Joe Colton, not Hawk, which is an interesting change. Because in the original series, comics, toys, Joe Colton was very much retired. I don't know why they didn't go with Hawk, but maybe we'll see in another movie. On a different topic, the Baroness, specifically her accent. It's just wrong for the Baroness, you know. Now, I don't blame the actress. I think that's her natural accent, and trying to do another Baroness accent would have been weird. But it's a strange choice, I thought. But not that I minded too much, it just took me out of it every time she talked. Another bit of nitpicking, at one point someone has to use a DNA scanner to gain access to a room. Just the DNA scanner. There's no retinal scan, there are no fingerprints, so it's kind of easy to get somebody's DNA, especially in a movie with lots of swords. I feel security kinda screwed up there. And the last of the small stuff, the ending scene is actually in the trailer, which is stupid. So let's get into the movie proper. It starts out in the woods with a very young Snake Eyes and his dad going home to their cabin, which is a safe house, it turns out. And it seems that they are being hunted, though Snake Eyes doesn't realize it, but his dad does. The whole opening scene kinda had an Evil Dead vibe to me. And the dad was right, because an assassin breaks in and takes him out. So Snake Eyes' dad is dead. And this is also where we get the origin of the name Snake Eyes, and it's kinda lame. You see, the assassin has a pair of loaded dice with him, and he lets his victims throw them, and if they throw up Snake Eyes, he kills them. So he takes his name from that. I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't know why they needed to have an explanation for the name Snake Eyes. I mean, it's Han Solo from the Solo movie all over again. Nobody's gonna be satisfied and you're just gonna piss some people off. Anyway, the opening scene was a flashback, so now we flash forward to where Snake Eyes is a grown man and he's an underground cage fighter, as you do. Through this we learn that he's very good at martial arts, and so he gets recruited by a Yakuza boss. By the way, this is still in America, where apparently the Yakuza are also active. Go figure. This particular Yakuza group is smuggling guns into Japan, and their organization has been infiltrated by Storm Shadow, who is looking for his cousin, who tried to kill him once, so his cousin was banished from the clan, and it's a whole brouhaha. Anyway, he befriends Snake Eyes, but then gets found out. So to prove his loyalty, Snake Eyes is ordered to shoot Storm Shadow, which of course he doesn't, and it's a face turn, and they both have to go on the run from the Yakuza. This leads to a pretty good chase and fight scene, but there's one thing about it: they only use katanas. Now, I wouldn't mind so much. I mean, this is a martial arts sword fighting movie, so that's to be expected. But they're not in Japan yet. They're in the US. And they were smuggling guns. Guns that are not used even once. I mean, the whole movie could have been over if the Yakuza had just used guns. Now, there's actually a reason for this, which we'll get into later, but at the time it was still baffling to me. So, for saving his life, Storm Shadow takes Snake Eyes all the way to Japan to join his ninja clan, basically, the Arishaki. Wait, what? The Arashikaji, or however the hell you pronounce it, because they pronounce it differently in the movie, and I'm not even gonna attempt it. So Snake Eyes gets there, and he's going to get 3 tests to see if he can join the clan, and honestly, the entire clan thing, it's pretty cool. It looks very nice, it's Japanese enough. No complaints there. And speaking of no complaints, I have heard people complain about the fact that the 3 tests have nothing to do with martial arts. Well, that wasn't the point of the tests. The tests are not part of the training. They are to see what's in your heart. So I was perfectly fine with all 3 tests having nothing to do with combat. One thing I did have a problem with was that there was no training montage. You have like one scene of Snake Eyes actually training and nothing else. Now, it was established earlier that he was already a martial arts expert, but nothing about him being able to use a sword. And yet, by the time all the stuff is done, he's an expert swordsman, and nobody has really seen how or when that happened. Come on, even Rocky had a montage. It should have been in there. Anyway, Snake Eyes fails the last test, but he gets saved by the head of the security because she kinda likes him. And by the way, was that Jinx? Was that supposed to be Jinx? Because it's never alluded to that she's bad luck or something, but given how few women there are in the G.I. Joe mythos, it had to have been Jinx, right? But during all this, we also learned that Snake Eyes is actually a double agent. He's still working for the Yakuza directly for Storm Shadow's cousin. Yeah, he's there to betray them all. What a twist. But you can tell his heart isn't really in it, but they promised that they would find the killer of his father. So he thinks he has no choice but to go along with it. Oh, and the Yakuza boss is working with Cobra because of course he is. So what's their plan? Well, the Yakuza boss wants to take over the clan, like his original plan was, and Cobra wants a MacGuffin that the clan has. And that MacGuffin, we'll get to that, it's a doozy. By the way, Storm Shadow doesn't get his name until the end of the movie, but there is a scene earlier where somebody says that his face is like the shadow of the storm that's coming. And that's how he decides on his name, which is incredibly lame. Plus, it doesn't make sense because the clan's name, Arashikaji, already means Storm Shadow. So anyway, Snake Eyes does end up betraying them. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. And he gets the MacGuffin and gives it to the Yakuza boss, who is then gonna attack the compound with a whole lot of men. And the Baroness. At the same time, the Yakuza guy and Cobra keep their word, and they've got the killer of Snake Eyes' father locked up in a shed nearby, and they say he can do whatever the hell he wants with him. So he goes in there ready to kill him, but guess what? The guy was working for Cobra at the time. Cobra ordered Snake Eyes' father dead. What a twist! So Snake Eyes lets the guy live and he gets remorse. Snake Eyes, I mean, not the guy. And so he rushes back to the clan to help them stop the bad guys. In the meantime, Storm Shadow and the head of security were actually trying to find him to kill him and get the MacGuffin back, but hey, what you gonna do? So Cobra and the Yakuza pretty much overrun the clan's compound, And when it's time to give the MacGuffin to Cobra, the Yakuza betrays them. Cursed or sudden but inevitable betrayal. Yeah, why he'd want to do that, I'm not so sure, considering by this point everybody knows how powerful Cobra is. By the way, at this point Scarlet had arrived on the scene and was fighting alongside the clan, but she got captured, and now the Baroness is captured too because, you know, the betrayal. Which actually leads to a pretty awesome moment when Scarlet and the Baroness are forced to team up. It was a very good scene. By the way, there's one F-bomb in this movie, and it's from the Baroness, and I gotta admit, it was very well done. A lot better than the S-bombs you had in the Transformers the movie, or in Star Trek Generations at any rate. I thought it fit well, and it fit the character. So everybody teams up against the bad guys, Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, the Baroness, and evil is defeated, but not without a price. And that's pretty much the movie. Now, I haven't mentioned yet what the MacGuffin is that was so important, and that's because, God, it's dumb. It's basically a magical rock that fell to Earth, and whoever uses it can channel its power through your anger to make it explode people and buildings and stuff. At first I couldn't figure out why this was in the movie, it's such a dumb plot device, but then I realized, you know what that thing actually was? An Infinity Stone! That's my theory anyway, well not literally an Infinity Stone, but something that serves the same purpose. Why? Because Hasbro is desperate to get their own cinematic universe, and this thing is probably the first of a great many mystical things that come together to form a big bad or something if they ever get their cinematic universe, which I doubt they're gonna do based on this movie. Now, this film had both good and bad elements, but you know what the actual worst element was? The camera work! It had so much friggin' shaky cam, especially in the fights, and it just ruined them. It's awful. Awful camera work. I don't know why they went for the shaky cam thing, it just makes everything more confusing and headache inducing. If there's another movie, I hope that they nail the camera to the floor. For contrast, I actually watched another movie yesterday, the Shang-Chi one. Now that had also great martial arts and great fight scenes, and you know what it didn't have? Shaky cam. Superior movie. The worst thing about the shaky cam is there are fantastic fighting scenes in this movie, but you just can't see them very well. That's unforgivable because these actors did an amazing job, the stunt people did an amazing job, and then you just shake it all about and ruin it. It's just ugh. Now my final bit of critique, well, you can take it or leave it depending on how much you like the G.I. Joe mythos, the original one anyway. You see, this movie is called Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins, and we got the origin of Snake Eyes. There's just one problem with it. They basically gave Storm Shadow's backstory to Snake Eyes. No, think about it. A father figure is killed, so the guy goes to work for an evil organization because they promised they'd find the killer for him. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's exactly what happened to Storm Shadow. And even more, after figuring out who the killer was, he leaves the evil organization and joins the good guys. I just hope Larry Hama got residuals for this movie because they completely ripped that story off. So, overall, was this a bad movie? Well, no with a but, or yes with an if. I'd say that it isn't a bad movie unless you can't stand shaky cam and you really like the original Storm Shadow origin that is now given to Snake Eyes, and you'll find that problematic in this movie. So yes, it is a good film if you don't mind shaky cam and don't care that much about the G.I. Joe original mythos. As for what I personally thought, the Snake Eyes and Stormy origins getting swapped bothered me a little, but not that much, so I wouldn't deduct points for the movie for that. And overall it was a very good story with some very good fighting, but the thing that ruins it is the shaky cam. I just can't get over that. And that about wraps up this vlog. Just some notes for the coming weeks. Next week will be the last review of the year. That's because the following 2 weekends we'll have Christmas Day and New Year's Day on Saturday, so I won't be able to work on anything Saturdays. And on Sundays I think I'm gonna be in a food coma and or have a hangover, so we're gonna do something a little lighter for those 2 weeks. I think there'll be a sort of unboxing for one of them, and for the episode after New Year's Day, maybe a look back and forward on the channel. And we do have a lot to look forward to, because 2022 will be the 10th anniversary of this show, so stay tuned for that. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody, and hey, why not like, share and subscribe if that's your thing.